Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Vito DINO. This is episode 43. I am Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dean Haspiel. Vito, technical question before you
Yeah,
start. Usually I have to click something saying OK when recording in progress. Is this something changed or is this upgraded version or something?
I didn't know you had to do that, but no, it's
All right.
recorded. Everything's good.
All right. We're good. Okay.
You figure we're close to a year. We'll finally figure out that we're doing something right at some point.
By accident, like monkey,
Yeah,
like a million monkeys will eventually yield a Shakespeare play, right? If they keep
exactly.
typing.
So a couple of things to go into. Number one, congratulations on your Kickstarter.
Thank you very much. I do want to talk about some aspects of that at some point
Yeah,
soon.
I actually wanted to bring up a couple of things. Number one, I was looking over your Kickstarters. You've run 5 Kickstarters so far, starting in 2023. Um, you started your first Kickstarter was probably your best. Obviously, usually the first ones are. You had 375 backers, and you made 15 grand, a little over 15 grand. Um, your current one was 336 backers, $12,830 intake. But if you go through your Kickstarters and you add them all up, you're averaging about 13 grand a Kickstarter, which is great. So congratulations on that.
Well, I appreciate that, and you're right. The first one, I think more people are like, "Oh, I'm going to help out my buddy Dean or
Right.
whatever," or people are intrigued, or maybe something about COVID cop at the time was people were responding to that. And it's funny because essentially the new Kickstarter, Antimatter, which is my one man anthology, is the majority of it is a COVID cop sequel.
Right.
And as we discussed on this show, the reasoning why I decided to do an umbrella title and not just focus on one story and have many. I well, so we already talked about a couple of things where we're dealing with a Kickstarter strike, employee strike right
Right.
now. And I was talking to our good pal Charlie McKelvey, and how he has a Kickstarter right now, and he and a bunch of people that he's been talking to that have current Kickstarters this minute are finding it troublesome and difficult
Sure.
to gain traction because of the I assume partially because of the strike. They're not getting that kind of support.
Mhm.
So I do wonder, and then there's a couple other things that happened. I do wonder, could I have gotten to the 15K sweet spot? I mean, obviously you want more, you want $1 million, but I want to grow my audience, not
Right.
get less. So so that monies that you just talked about, the $12,830 for
Mhm.
336 people, and I'm being transparent by talking about all this. A couple of things, and then we'll get to numbers.
Mhm.
One, the Kickstarter's employee strike didn't help. The fact that, and we've discussed it, that my Instagram live was taken away from me, and I was actually talking to the publisher of SHP Comics this morning, and he is trying to get the people who have taken over his social media to try to get to the bottom of this. And it's
Mhm.
the fact that I got punished, and I even wrote them a long letter to
Instagram?
some robot at Instagram that is
Mhm.
not responding, because it's all automated
Right.
responses, no human beings, they don't care, right? So then I just discovered something yesterday when I posted artwork I did for Hotwood Arts benefit at the Duckworth Gallery that I was just at about an hour ago, to help benefit the people who were displaced by that Red Hook fire,
Mhm.
that was
Mhm.
a big news across the nation. Um, I know a bunch of those people. I know a lot of them who got displaced. I created artwork. When I tagged them to talk about this event tonight, they asked me to be a collaborator. I was like, okay. I went to try to do the collaborator aspect of Instagram, and that too I've been banned from.
I don't
So I
understand.
don't know what else rights they've taken away from me, Instagram, because of a few self-centered censored images from a neurotic comic that I contributed to. That's not even my artwork. It's
Yeah.
really pissing me off to the point where I'm like, should I leave Instagram in defiance? But then why? It's
Right.
still a useful tool in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
And also, if you have that thing where um, I know that if you post on Instagram, it can go to Facebook. I would
Yeah.
imagine the other way around would work too. Like if you post on Facebook, you can have it automatically go to Instagram. So that might be a workaround.
There is a use for it. It's just that some of the aspects, and again, the reason why I wanted to do Instagram Live is because I would gain new pledges from
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
That did help. That did matter. Now I'm discovering I can't do collaborator posts, whatever the hell that means.
Mhm.
Ultimately, fine. The very thing that got me in trouble in the first place. And then a couple of other things I discovered about my campaign. And again, this is all about learning. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
I thought I enabled this feature called late pledging. And
Yes.
technically I did, but what I didn't know, because again, I didn't read the whole book of how to do it, and I should have consulted someone like Charlie, who I did, and he told me what happened, was what I didn't know is that before the campaign actually ends, you have to activate certain tiers for late pledging before it officially ends so that it
Got
can
it.
extend. I did not know that. So anybody listening to this, if you have a Kickstarter and you click the late pledge button, so that you can continue to get pledges after your campaign is ended, there's a couple other steps you got to do before to make
Yeah.
that work.
I
So
didn't know
I
that either.
missed
I've
out
never
on
done
that.
that.
It's more of it's a newer feature, I
I was
think.
gonna say it wasn't around the last time I did a Kickstarter, so like I wouldn't have known.
Right. So that was something I missed out on. And then another thing I've discovered through a couple of people is that they didn't realize that this was all new material. They thought I was
Oh.
collecting the first four deep cut comics I've published, and that this was a collection of that. Even though in the tiers you were some of the tiers where you can buy the comics
Mhm.
that you have missed out. Why would I be offering that if that's what I was collecting?
Right.
So hello, put two and two together, and
Without
then I kept
without
saying
being
I was doing brand new material. So
and
that's
without
another
being
thing.
too heavy-handed or without insulting anyone's intelligence, I do think that we are in an era where maybe it's the internet, and everything is just so readily available and just so right there that people don't think, before doing stuff. But you really do have to treat people like they're children sometimes and like get into like this really long-winded explanations of what everything is and stuff. And again, I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence.
No, no,
I fall victim to
I
it as well.
we all do it, and in fact, there's a trick in writing stories, uh, in plays and movies and comic books, where if you're going to say reveal something, sometimes you have to reveal it three times, so
Yeah,
that people get it the third time if they didn't get it the first time,
right.
or there's a piece of information you need to know, and it's in the exposition or it's in a moment between two people. Remember to do the thing,
Yeah.
and you have to, because sometimes people don't get it the first time, and I understand that. So I needed to do a better job letting people know that this was in fact all new material, and it is. Um, I missed out on the late pledging because of a snafu. And for all intents and purposes, and of course, I'm exhausted from promoting, and all of
Yeah.
us, and all my friends
And
and
you
peers,
doing two conventions one after the other and all that
and
stuff.
trying to create material while all this and everything else, and editing an anthology that we haven't really talked about too much
Mhm.
yet. There's a bunch stuff going on. At the end of the day, I did a little bit of math, and again, this is full transparency. So if the campaign made $12,830, I did some quick math, and I might have gotten this right.
Mhm.
Kickstarter gets their 5% plus fees for what do you call it? The transactions,
Yeah. The credit card transactions.
the
Yeah.
credit card. I think, and I think they get $1,127 of that.
Okay.
Okay. Then that leaves me with $11,702. And if you take away 4K for the printing, packaging, mailing, and I'm
Right.
just taking a guess here, okay? It might be a little bit more. I don't know. That includes envelopes, taped, stamps,
Mhm.
everything, plus the printing of the books. That might leave me with $7,700, and it's going to take me about 3 months, divided by three, which means I'm making about $2,567 a month to live on in the most expensive
City in the
city
world. Yeah.
on earth. You know, so again, I'm not swimming in anything. It's barely sustainable. And even with everyone supporting you as best as possible, and that's another thing, the one I hate the most, Oh, I didn't realize you were doing campaign. I didn't see anything the entire month. Of course you didn't.
Of
You
course.
saw something I posted after, the day after. But of course you didn't see anything because I was just lax. I was lazy about it, you know.
Yeah.
So whatever. I'm not trying to get mad because we're all learning from it. Um, I tend to not game the algorithms by actually posting a link in my initial post instead of doing it in the comment, which is the way to trick it, I guess, a little bit.
Right, right.
So I don't know, man. It's on the one
The
hand, I'm grateful, but on the other hand, it's difficult. This is hard.
so looking at your backers from each campaign, you had like an almost, I think it was 90 backer drop between COVID Cop and Billy Dogma.
Right.
And then it went up 30, and then that went up 55, and then you dropped for Antimatter somewhere in about 25 backers because you went from 370 to 336, which isn't much, but like in terms of backers, like obviously.
Right. And also my just real quick, the initial what I'm asking for, I believe with COVID Cop it was 10 and 15 digital and print.
Yeah,
And with Antimatter, which
you bumped it up.
Is 15-20.
Right.
So I don't know if inflation, 3 years later, if that equals the same thing or
Well,
whatever.
there's an argument to be made that because these are all kind of bespoke items, they're all kind of curated individually,
Limited
limited
edition.
edition. They're not being printed and distributed, worldwide.
Right.
That there is an argument to be made that your price point, because I'm usually like, I want to keep my price point at $10,
Right.
but if you do that, you're not making anything.
Right.
So
Right.
the argument nowadays is no, you should charge $25 or you should charge $20 or something
Right.
for a
Right.
$5 comic that you sell at a show or something,
Right. Right.
because there's other extras that you throw in. But the interesting thing is your backers, you dropped, from 15 to about 12,000, but you gained almost 600 backers in this last campaign. Like it's about five something. Because your last for Chess Face, your campaign, I'm sorry, money, not backers, money. Like you gained $600.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see.
I said backers. I apologize. So
Right.
you got to 12,270 in your last Chess Face one,
Right.
but you gained like almost $600. Like five something in change.
And that might even have something to do with the what the tiers were, in a way.
Right.
So,
And
um,
then again, I think the thing that people don't understand is, okay, Kickstarter's having a strike. Um, like, how does that affect you? If I'm not mistaken, the employees that work there are the ones that kind of go to bat for you. They're the ones that, collectively say, this is a project we love, or this is something that we want to put on the front page and stuff. And that helps more than you think, because there's a lot of people that just go to Kickstarter's website and they just go to the website. They don't go because it's and you would have that those metrics on your end, like how many people just back just from being on Kickstarter,
right.
how many came from Facebook, how many came from Twitter, et
Oh,
cetera.
I definitely have that data. And
Yeah,
one of the reasons why you do Kickstarter over all the other crowdfunders is because, in fact, Kickstarter's comics culture is robust and they're
right,
looking and want to know. And so one of the things I lost was the curation aspect, let's say, from the employees saying, oh, he's someone to watch, check out this project. If you like this, you might like that. And then be part, and there was no emails that went out, that
right.
I know of, saying here are the projects that kind of stuff. So it did mess with me to the point where I do wonder, had I postponed my Kickstarter and waited for things to settle and for the employees to get hopefully what they deserve and then come back, I do think that all of us would be doing better because of the culture that is now missing.
Right. And the other thing too, just for another transparency type of move, Dean reached out to both the head of the comics division of Kickstarter and to the guy that is I
CEO.
would say, running the strike or something, or like organizing the strike. So, and they both gave you their blessing.
Oh
So
no, no, I talked to the CEO of Kickstarter.
thank you.
The
I couldn't
entire,
remember who it was. Yeah.
but also, like you said, the what, not the team leader, but the comics guy at
Right.
Kickstarter,
So I
and they
mean,
both gave me their blessings. But if, and when I think about it, of course they would, because the platform does basically run on its own. It's just that you don't have that curated aspect
right.
that's pimping, and there's a lot of projects that
It's
launch on Kickstarter every day.
it's so weird because there is an algorithm to the whole thing, but that algorithm, it almost seems to be driven like human driven. You know what I mean? Like there's always like it seems like there's somebody behind it to drive that algorithm, and that's what you were missing. So I mean, you could have made more. Maybe you could have made less. Because everything's a blessing. Like so you could have gone one way or the other, but at the
Sure.
same time, like you're asking for 9,000, you made 12, so I think that's a great win.
No, it's a win, and ultimately, what I'm hoping that this is to do campaigns where at least I'm getting 15, because
Mhm.
then I feel like I can breathe a little better,
Right.
even with the takeaways of what's going to cost to print and all that. So at 15, with Kickstarter taking over 1,000, it costing at least 4 grand to produce the damn thing. At least I'm getting 10,000 to live on,
Right.
you know. And I'm sure a lot of people, I don't know how many people are listening to this are going to be like, oh, lucky you, Dean, like, sure.
Yeah,
But I do the work 7 days a week.
it's
Okay.
also, the problem with, people will see the amount that you made and be like, why is he complaining about anything? And it's like, again, you do live in one of the most expensive areas of the world, if not the country.
And they'll tell me to move.
But no, yeah, but I mean, but the
Yeah.
important thing is that like there, and I try to impart this to everyone that works in comics or or is trying to work in comics, and there's a real lesson that you have to learn really early, and it's how to value your time and your work. And like I think I gave an example a couple of episodes back, but the truth of the matter is that like it does cost money to make a comic. You run out of pencils, yeah, you're gonna have to buy a
Yeah.
new pencil at the very
Yeah.
least. Not never mind the ink that you use is expensive. Never mind that the paper that you use isn't just, typewriting paper. Like it's not just like regular, printer paper. It's an actual like artboard, like those things are not cheap.
Yeah, it's another thing. I'm not even talking about the other aspects that like, that creep up on you in terms of like what, comic book bags and boards,
Yeah.
like that keep it safe and nice when you get your delivery.
Mhm.
The tape, like you said, the
The envelope,
materials. I don't work digitally.
the
Yeah, yeah,
rigid
I don't work.
envelopes.
Right. And I don't work digitally. I work with ink and pencils and erasers and paper and stuff. So again, I'm not complaining. It's a numbers game at this point. You
Absolutely.
cannot deny the numbers. So it's cool, that I got this far, and I will try to make it work, but it just needs to be better. And that's what we're doing. We're learning together.
Mhm.
Like what would be better tiers? Maybe let me. I'll listen to anybody. Like what do you want? I have to do some drawings. And that's a part of it.
All
I have
that.
to draw 27, I think, sketches of the Red Hook now. Like so it's adding more time and more labor, and it's not just making a comic book and hitting and sending it to the printer and getting back a box of comics. That you
Mhm.
mail out. There's
Right.
so many other aspects to it. That's time as well. So it's I'm always learning. It's another conversation we've been having is gathering a group of us who do these once, twice a year. I forget how many you have next year, maybe 4 or 5 or something.
Right.
And then creating an umbrella kind of Trojan horse publishing concern, where and that's another thing. I'm not in the comic shops either, where we've already discussed how it wouldn't be worth financially for me to do it now, but how do I get into the comic shop where it is worth it for everyone, and I have better optics because of that. So it's great. I'm grateful. I'm learning.
I don't think there's a question that you are or aren't, like I don't think that's the question. I think, for the casual listener and viewer, it's like number one, like you think of comics as a disposable kind of medium, like magazines, you read it and then you put it aside or whatever, maybe comics are, technically more collectible in that respect. But there's a lot of cogs in the machine that make a comic. It's not like, and you're a
Right,
one-man team, like you do everything on your own. I do everything with at least one other person,
right,
that
right.
might, pencil, ink, and color the work, and I'll letter and write it. So I mean, there's that
A
weird
division of labor,
right,
time can truncate a little bit because there are more than one person working on the same pages,
right.
that kind of stuff. So absolutely. So it is constantly handing off the baton. And also, and real talk, we're living in a time of uncertainty. I'm anxious all the time, like we're all stressed out. So it's not even like I'm sitting there at my art table, just sitting pretty, just smiling. I am trying to find the joy in the work, but it's constantly, there's a heavy burden constantly of
Right.
life.
Yeah.
So we all get that. So anyway, thank you for the congratulations. I'll take it.
Absolutely. I gave it.
Um, and yeah, one of the things I mentioned in my little rant and rave right now was that Hotwood Arts, which was one of the studios that lost, I think there were 17 artists that lost everything in that major Red Hook fire. I think for a month long, you can go to Duckworth Gallery, which is also in Red Hook, and a lot of the artwork that was made and or donated for their benefit will be up running for about a month, I believe. So hopefully we can help these folks out.
Yeah.
It's really talk about community. Like the community is just getting together constantly in Red Hook, and it's really cool. So I'm proud to be a part of that community, and hopefully we can get these people back to having spaces to work in. Um, there was a couple of other things I wanted to talk, unless you have a couple of things you want to
No, but go
interject.
ahead. What do you got?
I was listening to our buddies across the pond, Gary Challoner and Tim McEwen,
Hmm.
a recent podcast of theirs,
Club
and
Domingo.
Club Domingo, and they were talking about. I don't remember the comics art fest that they were discussing. I feel like they were involved with one and then kind of like stepped back or something. And they were talking about comic art festivals, and it was making me think. Like I know me and Whitney sometimes talk about like putting together something bigger than a salon. Although that would be a great undertaking. I've had discussions with some other people that were like, well, if you could do a comics art fest in Brooklyn. So it made me wonder if you could do a comics arts festival just off the top of your dome,
Mhm.
what do you think that is? Who's there? What's happening?
The thing I always wanted to do, I've always wanted to kind of stress the kind of educational aspects of comics, and the idea that kids can make their own comics. And one of the things I like, I remember there was a New York Comic Con that I was very upset about. Like they maybe jumped through hoops to get my table and stuff. And so, you know what? I'm gonna do my own convention. I'm gonna call it SadieCon, and I'm just gonna get everybody's kids that I know, and I'm gonna put them at the tables. I'm gonna let them draw stuff, and then we're gonna buy from them. And that's kind of what I would do as like if I were running a show, or a salon, or an art festival. Like I would want to, encourage, like make it an educational thing, where it's like you're learning not only how to make art, but you're also learning how to sell your art, how to sell your like yourself, in a sense. Like what is it about you that is so, like, and your thing that you made that's so special. And that's kind of where the culmination of that was Sadie's comic that she made when she was 5 years old. So, and she sold it by herself at Baltimore Comic Con, made her own money and stuff, and
I remember
donated
that.
and stuff.
I remember that.
So it like
Yeah.
that's kind of like the proof of it. Like
Well,
the
what you've just described, because I keep hearing kids comics. I'm talking we're the adults, but actually, what you've described is the spirit of comics, of
yeah,
indie comics.
yeah,
Because when you're young, you might want to be Spider-Man or Batman or whatever, or you dress up like that in the costumes, and you're encouraged, you wear the shirt or whatever, the toy, and then at some point, some of us go, "Wait, I want to do my own. I want
mm,
to create my own." But that happens as a kid as well, and I feel like you're lancing that kind of that spiritual energy of creativity that not only sometimes serves a company, but serves you're the company.
right,
You're the CEO of the character, you know, as it
Yeah,
were.
I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, like as we go into our conversation. But Michelle and I met a guy today who he sells comics. Like he's not in a comic store per se, but he runs like a comics area in a store, like a
Hmm.
secondhand or like a collectible store. And
Hmm.
he was showing us that he made his own comics when he was like 10 or 11 or a little bit older and sold them at school. And it's like like that's kind of the greatest thing ever.
I
Like
mean,
I don't.
that's exactly. So going back to the idea of a comics art fest, I mean, listen, there's so many good ones, SPX,
Mhm.
Mocha, you know, the big ones. Recently, IC3, the Kingston one, Kais, I think you say.
The Eddie
Um,
Pete Con, which is kind of like
Eddie Pecan, that's new and up and happening. I feel like that, like it's very grassroots, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, you know, are we in a gym? Like, where are we? You know, kind of a
Right.
thing. Um, and I feel like, you know, I guess the question is, and we don't need to get into it now because we're just talking like freestyling, but
Mm.
like, how do you curate? What does that even mean, curating? You know, like obviously you can't get everyone in because there are a lot of cartoonists right now. There are entrepreneurs are using Kickstarter. You know, you can film Bix. We've already discussed. I think
Yeah.
Bix almost expanded too big. You know, but those tables were filled. Not everyone was a cartoonist, but the tables were filled, and it's like a lot of Brooklyn showed up. And so where's the boundary? Where are the lines? And then what is it you're trying to say at your comics art festival? And that's another thing. We have so many comics arts festivals now that you can personalize it. It could be
Well,
the Vito Con, you know, like
yeah,
what is it?
the thing about curating, I think, is that when you're doing a convention as opposed to a arts fest, when you're doing a
Mm-hmm.
convention, it's less about curation and more about how do we drive traffic? You want to get, the at least one major, artist in your area or in the
Right,
world to show
right,
up. So that way it offsets the cost of what it took to rent the place, what it takes to, get unions to work there and stuff,
right,
all that stuff. And so, you always, like in a convention, you always try to do something like, that. Whereas
right.
curating, I would imagine when you're curating a festival, it's less so about that and more about the spirit, like you were saying, like the spirit of the thing. What are you
Mm-hmm.
trying to convey to the community at large and then to the comics community, insular? Um, and I think, like that's where you can get thematic, you can get a little bit uh nuanced, like you don't necessarily have to do like dealer tables, you can just do artists, you don't have to do um retailers or uh, like t-shirts, toys, or anything. You just do strict comics. Like I think that's what the curation part of it is. It's like once you figure
And
out.
and it's funny because like when me and Dan Goldman were sitting next to in between uh very different booths at near Comic Con this year and in Arts Alley, the one left to us were artists like us that were
Mhm.
trying to hawk their wares, right? And the people next to and they did okay. The people next to us to the right were just selling prints, stickers, and little thingamajigs, right? And they
Tchotchkes,
had a
yeah,
line around the block,
yeah.
basically. You know, and it's because I think a lot of people just come in, they just want to get a little token of something. We've discussed this before.
Mhm.
Versus, so I almost wonder if my comics art fest would focus on read things that you need to read.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, like not necessarily tchotchkes. And I'm not saying you can't bring tchotchkes to your books, but I want people to walk away buying stories.
Right.
You know, because believe in stories. I think they're really super important. And we live in an ADD culture right now because of our phones and everything else. We just absorb headlines to be our
Huh?
news and our stories. And I want to keep celebrating and encouraging the art of story. So yeah, I don't know. I would need to think more about my comics art fest, talk about yours. I mean, again, every weekend is another one, and you can curate it to be very specific and see how that does, before you fall in line with what's popular, if that
Right.
makes sense, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if
Um,
popularity really, like obviously you want something, to hit so that way you can do it again. Anything that makes money is always a good
right,
thing. But
right.
like to me, I remember Michelle and I were like just back in 2013 or 2014, whenever this discussion first happened. I think, it was like, let's just get like a uh, Lions Club lounge, or like some kind of like Kiwanis, or some
Hmm.
kind of like just like a little area, you know what I mean? Put
Hmm.
5 or 6 tables together in a circle, and like I said, parents and like adults just walk around and just like meet the kids and like like learn about their art and stuff.
I think that's really great. And in your educational aspect, I also think you ask a certain amount of artists to do little workshops, not only for the kids, but for any age, all
Yeah.
ages.
Yeah.
Come on down. Let's make a comic together. Let's create a character. Let's design a character in one workshop, right? And then in the next workshop, come up with like a 1 or 2 page story that you just basically lay out. You don't need to finish. You can finish it at home, but
Yeah.
what makes a story work visually? Like what is your story? I mean, you and I, and a handful of us could rock these workshops.
I've done it. I've done it like funny enough, I did a street fair um where a friend of mine was running a street fair in East New York in Brooklyn, and
Right,
um with a big easel and a big pad, I showed them how to
nice,
make comics.
nice.
Like there's too much going on for anybody to really pay attention, but like I knew exactly what I was saying, and the kids that I was talking to, seemed to absorb it pretty well. So
Well, I can see you, me, Nick Forker down the hall. We got Russ Kazmierzak, James Green, Whitney, of course, could teach writing as well. Josh Neufeld. I mean, I know everybody at SVA.
yeah.
By the way, have you seen, did you see Jason Little recently?
No.
Oh my,
I don't know how I
I
feel.
went to his Halloween party and I didn't know
No.
who this person was that was basically like this European asshole that was trying to attack me. Dude, I'm gonna send to your phone.
Okay.
And you wouldn't have known this was him. But hold on, let me try and find this. And then I have a couple other topics.
Yeah, I have
Uh,
one topic that when you're ready for it.
all right,
Actually,
we'll do that.
let's do that next, because I'm going to send you a picture
Are you gonna send me a picture? Okay, hold on. We're
from
doing this
my
live,
excursion
folks.
today.
Of York's, is this where you said you went to that thing?
Yeah, Michelle and I took a little drive today, and I'm going to send that to you,
Cool.
so
Okay,
that
here.
way you can understand, what I want to talk about.
Right.
So that's been sent.
Okay, now I'm sending you, and hopefully we'll.
Cross the
Oh,
streams.
there we go. Hold on a second. Cross streams. Vito. Every time I write Vito, it says Vito because my thumb is too big.
My Aunt
All right.
Alice strikes again.
All right. All right.
I
I
can
just sent
explain
you
that
that.
to you off off the
Oh,
air, because it's
oh shit. You went to there?
I went there. Where I went, everyone, as I went to the Steve Ditko
Wow.
mural with my wife today in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which was a go ahead and talk, Dean, so they can hear
I
see.
am now showing a picture well, on my phone of what Vito sent me. It's the mural, the Steve Ditko mural of Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, all the characters that he created. I believe there's
There's
got
a
to be DC characters
there's a
somewhere. Maybe.
different mural that we didn't find out about until we got home.
Oh,
We
okay.
plan on going to. This one actually shows Ditko at a drawing board with Mr. A and a couple of other
Right.
Charlton characters and
I've
stuff.
seen that too.
It's
I've seen
really
that
it's
too.
really cool. So um basically what prompted this was Ron Hill, a good friend of ours from JSU Comics, just kind of said, "Hey, why don't you go to the Ditko, mural? That's like my mecca, like do it for me." And I'm like, "All right, I'll go." Just because Ron's going through some health issues right now, so
Yep.
I
Yep.
was like, anything for you, Ron. So I went down there and I not live streamed it, but like did like a FaceTime with him,
Right.
while we were looking at it and stuff like that. And then he started just sending me all these links. He's like, "You got to go here. There's a gallery with his artwork. There's it." And I was like, "Oh my God,"
Wow.
like I'm inundated. But we do plan, and afterwards we just kind of drove around Johnstown. What a nice place.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it
But
was like
how far is that away from you?
about an hour.
Okay.
It's not far at all.
Right.
I was
Right.
shocked. Both Michelle and I were like saying how we thought it was like more, like 2 hours or something.
Right. Right.
But like it that picture does not convey the magnitude of it. It's like the side of a
Right.
building, yes, but
No,
it's huge.
it's
Like
huge, and I forget who did it, and I've seen it posted, and like I said, I've seen the other image as well. Is that around the corner, the other mural, or
it is not. It's a little bit further away, but like we couldn't find it. So like we're gonna
right?
go back down there with the kids next time and like go and look at the museum and stuff. Find out, like there's a Ditko Con that I definitely want to try to go to now that I know where Johnstown is.
Yep.
I want to try to go next year. I know Jimmy went this year, Jim Rugg, and a couple of other folks. So I was like, yeah,
If you go next year, maybe I'll go with you
yeah, that's a good idea.
and like crash. I don't know what we're whatever. We'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
we'll
You know.
figure that
So
out. It's next year.
no, I mean,
But
again, speaking of cons, that's a
yeah,
very
yeah.
specific con. That's a Steve Ditko con. You know.
Absolutely. And it led me to think, like um there's a new mayor in New York who's very arts friendly. He was a musician, so I know he's very arts friendly.
His
And
mother's a famous filmmaker and I think an artist, and I think
yeah,
his wife is also an artist. And
yeah.
someone was banning out the word cartoonist too. Like there might be cartoonists in his family.
So here's my thought, okay? So I know that they've been banning about I don't know that they've done it yet, but I think they're going to rename a part of Delancey Street Kirby
Jack Kirby
Avenue.
Way.
Yeah,
Jack
Jack
Kirby
Kirby
Way.
Way. I think personally that if we could somehow rope in, I doubt that this will happen, but Mike Mignola, Steve Rude, and Dean Haspiel to design a mural of Jack
Oh,
Kirby
oh
for that,
boy.
for that section.
Boy.
And then I was thinking, maybe the reason why they don't do a mural is because people would be too easy to tag it and graffiti it.
Yeah, that's what happens next. Everyone destroys it, which is awful. I remember
But
seeing the George, is it George Floyd? That was his name.
yes, yes.
I remember the George Floyd mural that everyone saw in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
It's right next to my friend Mike O'Shea, the film director Mike
Yeah,
O'Shea's home is like 4 doors away. So every time I visit him, I saw the George Floyd, and they even tagged that shit. It's just like,
yeah,
come on, man,
yeah.
don't
Welcome
do
to New
that.
York.
And then they painted it over. Now it's something else, which is like,
Right.
why would you paint that over? That was such a moment, you
But
know.
I was just thinking, man, like that would be great to have Dean design a Jack Kirby mural.
Oh
Like
my god.
there.
Well, but
I
you
mean,
mentioned
maybe.
Steve Root and Mike Mignola. They would kill it. They
Well,
would
I mean,
kill
the
it.
three of you would just be
Well,
like,
that would be fun. I would love to do something, and also. Uh, it's early days, but I am in talks with someone about the Roz and Jack Kirby
oh,
Roz awards.
very
Just so you
good. Yeah, that's good.
talk
But
about
yeah,
that.
I was just like when I was looking at it, I was like, this is just like again, like it's so big, like and it like there's a one of the figures of Spider-Man in that picture where it's like his back is to you and it's just his butt,
Yep.
kind of, and like that's the size of Michelle when she stood there, and it's like and like
Yeah.
it's just like a little tiny piece of that whole thing, and
Yep.
it's like wow, it's so breathtaking in a sense, and it's so like how cool that this town recognizes, like there's so much like there's a little weirdly a mural along as you drive in, there's like this kind of like barrier against the river, and it's all little tiny murals, of little things. And like there was a piece that said something about Steve Ditko, hometown hero.
hmm
Like it's just like wow, like like imagine,
It's
like.
awesome. It's awesome.
But yeah, I was like
Yeah.
immediately, like after I talked to Ron, I was like, Dean needs to do a Jack Kirby mural. So
That would be awesome. Going back to the thing I sent you, I'm going to show
mhm.
this. I don't know
Yeah,
if you saw it. That's
I
me
did.
and Jason Little. It's hard to see on the video. And I did not recognize him. And if you could see the rest of the clothes, he had every toenail. He had like sandals on, but or Crocs or something, open Crocs, and every toenail was colored a different rainbow color.
He
And
looks
he had
like
these like
Macho Man Randy Savage.
it's
Like,
insane. I don't know who this person is, and yet he is evolved. He is next level, Jason Little. I don't know what happened here. It's incredible, you know. Anyway, so yeah, no, I'm excited and jealous that you got to go to that Steve Ditko mural, and
I'm
like you
so
said,
happy
there's
it's so close too. Like it Like it
Yeah,
was a nice drive. It was like very scenic, going through
right.
like, like the fall and, the foliage and everything.
Yep,
It
yep.
was really nice to, just take time with Michelle and just like we were just talking and like laughing, in the car. And then we got there and it's just like freezing cold, but it was so like overwhelmingly like
Yeah, yeah.
cool.
It's very cool that they did that. Couple other things. I spoke to a guy named Eric Gladstone at Aggregate Inc. Uh, his day job is EMT, which is
Wow.
cool. But he loves comics. He makes comics, and Aggregate Inc. Works with the libraries by putting. He curates indie comics and gets them into libraries for digital downloads, and
Hmm.
that you make money on. So we're gonna have another talk in a couple of weeks. He just went on vacation, but he was telling me about these other apps or whatever that are for libraries that you can download digitally, like comics stuff. Something
Hmm.
called Hoopla. Have you heard of
I've
Hoopla?
heard of Hoopla before. Yeah.
There's Hoopla. There's Comics Plus that I think works with something called Library Pass.
Hmm.
There's something called Libby,
Hmm.
like
Library.
library, Libby.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. It was library. No, and something called the Palace Project. So
Hmm.
I'm in talking to him about now. Of course, the question is, well, they can if you can take your library card, as it were, and get a free copy of my comic for 3 weeks, whatever. How am I making money at that? Like right now, as a collector's item, trying to make money so I can live, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and he said, yeah, you set the cover price, and then and there's only a certain amount of downloads per month that they can afford to pay you and stuff like that. But it does expand. So I don't know. If I had a book maybe that's just sitting around, I might test the waters, and see.
What about Fear, My Dear? Like that's a full book, no?
Here, my dear, the only problem is I feel like these are also targeted toward kids,
All
and Fear My
ages.
Dear is
Yes.
more adults,
Yeah.
but who knows? I don't know. I mean, I'll learn more about it.
And
But I do want to republish Fear My Dear with other Billy Dogma material, and that book came out in 2015. It's 2020, so it's 10 years later. So I do want to I do think it's been enough time that I could put together like the stuff I did in the Billy Dogma deep cut book,
Mhm.
plus Fear My Dear and Immortal, and any other material I have, and come out with another book collection. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Well, keep
So
this in
anyway,
mind.
Eric Gladstone is the guy to talk to right now. He's
Keep
at
this in
Aggregate.
mind, though, Dean. Like, dudes get caught jacking it at the library all the time, so why not? Like, like get
Here you
caught,
go.
caught.
You mean on purpose? That's part of the
That's
kink, my
that's part of
friend.
the kink. Yeah, it's true.
Part of the kink. Um, a couple more things. Uh, I am going to read a little bit of a press release. So I think I might have alluded to a movie I was working on
Yeah,
or work doing.
I know that you visited a movie set recently. Um,
Right.
I don't know if that
Uh,
has anything to do with this, but
Actually, last night I was at a thing where I was hanging out with Dave Hill and a guy named, I want to say Fred Weller, an
okay.
actor. Hold on a second. Let me just look him up really quick. Yeah, Fred Weller. Oh God, and he was pretty funny. What has he done? Filmography, film. Oh, he's been around since like 91. Bugsy. Oh, he was
Hmm.
in Basquiat. He was talking about how he was in he was in Black Klansman, Out of the Blue, Causeway, The Independent. I don't know. He's done a lot of stuff. It was Owner Tukel he and a guy named Jamie Block curate this salon they do like once every 2 months. I want to say in the Red Room of KGB Bar over
Yeah,
on
yeah.
4th Street. So they had some songs, they had some comedy, but Owner Tukel, they just announced his movie that I have a tiny little part in.
Hmm.
It's called The Company of Thieves. It's directed and written by Owner Tukel, and it stars Paul Sparks, Ajay Niju, Hannah Mae Lee, Eddie K. Thomas, and
Hmm.
Dave Hill. And if you go to the Deadline article, you can learn more about what it's about. Actually, here's a little synopsis. The film follows a trio of petty criminals as they embark on a string of bizarre heists and harebrained schemes across New York City, including the attempted acquisition of $1 million Prince Albert. Along the way, their misadventures collide with a struggling tech company whose employees face layoffs amid the rise of artificial intelligence.
Holy moly.
It's great. I read the script, I loved it. It was fun to be on set, and I did some artwork for it, which I won't get into now. I'll post about it once I can at some point. It's called A Company of Thieves. And then he also has another movie that I'm going to go hopefully on Monday to see at the Big Apple Film Festival. It's a movie called Wooden Hearts. That's a small little film he made recently. So yeah, Owner's one of the best, man. He's one of us.
Hmm.
He's also a cartoonist, and I've got him in this project that I allude to. So yeah, that was exciting. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, I do have a question for you before we get into the verses. Do
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
any other topics?
No, that was, I was so excited about the Ditko
That was
thing.
awesome.
You know.
That was awesome. All right, so I actually had to write this down to read it because I realized I could go all over the place. So let me go to the question I wrote down. Okay. All right. It was recently announced that Steven Spielberg and Chris Columbus are teaming up to produce Gremlins #3.
Mhm.
And recently announced that filmmaker John Carpenter is developing The Thing 2.
Yeah.
Every fan of The Thing is wondering if it will star Kurt Russell and Keith David and finally reveal which one is The Thing.
Yeah.
If you can remember how the movie ends, McGreedy, played by Russell, and Childs, played by Keith David, are sitting in the frozen remains of their annihilated complex, sharing a bottle of scotch, waiting to see which one of them will reveal themselves to be the alien. The movie ends and we never find out.
Right.
Okay, which is one of the best endings ever. Now, no one knows if that question will be answered in the Thing sequel, besides the fact that Kurt Russell and Keith David are 43 years older. But my question to you, Vito, is this.
Right.
What movie or TV show would you like to see revived with the same ensemble cast or as much of the cast that are still alive? In other words, we can't see a revival of the Mary Tyler Moore Show because most everyone has passed away.
Right.
However, I've never seen Freaks and Geeks, but I believe the entire cast is still alive, and I know fans of the show would love to see where those characters are now years later. And then I'll reveal because I worked on. Well, you know what? I'll go to my answer afterwards. So, do you have like a knee-jerk response to like a TV show or
I
a
think I
movie?
brought it up on the show before, but I had this idea to revive the show Voyagers from NBC in the 1980s, where John Eric Hexum and Mino Palouse play these time travelers that are, jumping all over the place because they have a wonky, um, it's called an Omni device, that's broken and they can't, get back home. And John Eric Hexum famously was killed on set of a TV show called Cover Up or something, or Cover something about models and stuff. And he died, unfortunately. But Mino Palouse is still around, and he's producing and doing some acting here and there. And like, I could definitely, like revive this idea with him as the adult and another, young, actor and stuff. So that's one that I would do almost immediately. There was another show called Cupid that had Jeremy Piven and Paula Marshall that I very short-lived. I think might have had 2 seasons at ABC that I was very fond of. It was very well written, very well made, but just never caught its audience. So I would love to see a revival of that as well. They're both still around.
That's cool. Actually, I do remember the Voyager one.
Yeah,
And I think we talked about the fact that you love time travel stories.
that's one of the impetuses behind my fetish for time travel stories.
Totally. I didn't really have an answer. I did write a couple of things down, and let me just go back to my notes. I said because I worked on it and one of the characters was loosely based on me, my biased answer is bored to death.
Yeah.
It only lasted 3 seasons. However, I was privy to show creator Jonathan Ames' plans for season 4, and I really wish they could have produced that, or at the very least, a truncated version into a movie.
Mhm.
But all these years later, Ames has told me he wouldn't pursue that season and would have to conjure something that made more relative sense, because there's such a time removal now.
Right.
They're so much older than what was planned for season 4. But when I think about a mostly still alive ensemble, I would love to see a revival of NYPD Blue with Dennis Franz,
Yeah.
you know, playing Sipowicz and whoever else is still alive that they could bring back the old
Jimmy
gang.
Smits is
Or
still alive. Yeah.
I would be happy with a revival of Hill Street Blues. You know, basically the same thing. Oh God, who's the Deadwood creator? Because he wrote on both of them.
Oh,
Who has dementia, unfortunately.
does he
Uh,
really?
oh, you didn't know that?
No, I
Dude,
didn't.
oh yeah, that's why he could barely finish Deadwood.
That's terrible. Oh man.
Oh, it's awful, man. There was a whole thing about, and he wrote a memoir while dealing with dementia. Um, his name David Milch.
Thank
David
you.
Milch. Yeah. Um, and then finally, I did have a couple other little well, like I said, I wish the Mary Tyler Moore show could have one more episode, let's say. Good Times, the parents are dead, you
Hmm.
know. It'd be the Jimmy JJ Walker show.
Yes.
I would love to see All in the Family have a revisit, but I think
They did that a couple of years ago.
they did it with other actors,
They did
right?
it with Woody Harrelson and Jamie Foxx
Right,
as
right,
Jefferson. Um,
right,
but I think it might not have been a new script. I think it might have been like they did an old episode just with like live on TV.
right. That's what they did. And then there's a moment where Jamie Foxx flubs a line,
Yeah,
and
I saw
then
it. Great.
Woody Harrelson is, yeah, that was funny. But you know what else I'd like to see? Barney Miller. And just today, I don't really have
You
money.
know, son of a bitch, I was thinking of Barney Miller a couple of days ago.
Oh
And
yeah,
and the thing I was thinking was, I know I watched it. I was like a devoted, viewer of it because something either came before it or after it that I was also devoted to watching.
right, right,
And I was sitting there going, I don't remember why I liked this show. Like like as a kid,
right.
like it's you watch it now and it's very so beyond a kid's understanding. You know what I mean? Like it
Sure,
doesn't make
sure.
sense for any 7-year-old kid to watch a TV, cop procedural comedy. You know what I mean?
But the characters in the room, forget the criminals they brought in. That would, every episode you'd have like those stories.
Yeah.
But the characters are so diverse, and I grew up with that, so that's why I could at least relate to it, even if
Mm.
they were older curmudgeons or whatever, like in a room dealing with society and crime, right? But you got the different types of characters: the Chinese guy, the Jew, the black dude, you
Hispanic.
know,
Yeah.
Hispanic, like, and they had different, heated personalities, and that's what I understood to be society, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, that would be a great revival just, with a new cast, not necessarily. I think Hal Linden's dead anyway, but like not
No, he's
necessarily.
alive.
Is he?
I think he's
Well,
still
Abe
alive. I
Vigoda's
think he's
dead.
living.
He's
David
got
Goat is dead, right?
Ron
Um,
Glass is still alive. I think Wojo might still be alive too, but I can't remember.
Bojo might still, but in a way, like Barney Miller was like Star Trek on Earth,
Yeah,
like
that's a good point.
in a
That's a
way.
good description. Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, was Abe Vigoda the only reason why like I recall it? The only another show that I loved that probably makes a lot of sense, but like I loved Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I think you could remake that now with,
Yes.
maybe not call them the Sweat Hogs or anything like that, but a different type of
No, you get Linkletter. You get Linkletter to do it, maybe, because
yeah.
he's good. Or Judd Apatow, if he's still interested in doing the young adult movies.
But the thing about it is that like the schools, even though like now you're looking at kids bringing like cell phones to class or whatever, like peer pressure is online instead of like in the school or whatever. I still think that there's a way to do it that like is modern and very faithful to what it was.
Right, right. It's funny because when I think of another TV show about high school, I think about Fame,
Mm-hmm.
which at least had the hyperbole of theater and dance and music, and you could jump into song, in the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome Back, Kotter was very specific in what it did,
Yeah.
anchored by uh, Gabe Kaplan,
You
like
who was just basically he was a Catskills Jewish comedian as a teacher,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is just who he was.
And
Uh,
he's like a big time poker play, like gambler
Yes.
now,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
But and
Um,
like Travolta and like all that. But like that's another thing where it's like you were talking about Barney Miller with like this diversity within the majors of the cast, and how instead of like why they're arguing like on Barney Miller, it's why are they getting along? Why are they such friends? Like why like
mhm.
Epstein and like Freddie Washington and Horshack and
Google in Washington,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Travolta.
we're so old, but like my God, that was such a like it's such a good show. Like it was just a good show. Like I
When
can't.
was the last time you watched like Laverne and Shirley?
Oh, not so long ago.
It's good, man.
It
It
is.
still holds up.
The thing about Laverne and Shirley that I realized when I watched it recently, because on Pluto TV they have a Happy Days channel.
Hmm.
Like it's an app on my one of my smart TVs, and it's just a Happy Days channel. So I'll just sit there and watch Happy Days all day.
Yup.
And then they'll throw in Mork and Mindy because Mork and Mindy was a spinoff,
Right.
and they'll throw in Laverne and Shirley. And the thing about Laverne and Shirley is the thing where it starts getting bad is when they move to California, and it's kind of like a modern instead of like staying in Milwaukee in the 50s, it becomes like a
right.
modern story. But the thing I realized as a kid, I thought Cindy Williams was absolutely like, like like beautiful, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I was just like Penny Marshall, like she just was.
But now as an
But now
adult,
I'm like Penny Marshall is so hot.
I know, it's
It's
crazy,
so
man.
weird. Like I don't know what like my taste, I guess. Like as a kid, your taste, you're like Ginger or Marianne, and that's really it.
Right, right,
You
right,
get older, and you're just like, oh man, like you know,
right.
there's so many different types of women or men, like for whoever,
It,
you don't realize. Like I'm sure there's a woman out there that thinks Carmine is a good looking guy.
oh yeah,
You know what I
the
mean?
big
Or
ragu, man, the
yeah,
big
like
ragu.
it's insane.
Or Lenny and Squiggy. Like Lenny is cool looking, man.
Like
Like
like who would in their right mind date Ralph Mouth?
I know, no, never,
Like
never.
nobody. But I'm
Right,
sure
right,
somebody does, like
right. Oh man, that's hilarious. Okay, so and speaking of two more things, and we'll go into our verses. Have you watched a show called The Lowdown?
no, I hear that's the Ethan Hawke show, right?
It's great.
I hear it's
It's great.
fantastic.
Whitney was like begging me to watch it. Finally, I started watching it. And I'm like, wow, like what's so good about the show
I
is
think
the
Keith David's
character.
on that show too, right?
Keith David's on that show. That's right.
Just watch
Right.
anything with Keith David, everybody.
Basically, or Ethan Hawke. But I will say, it's got great actors, great characters, to the point where the plot almost doesn't matter, even though there's a plot that drives, the
Ah,
show and where he gets beat up and there's something going on and this and that. It's all in the writing and the characters, and it really. And the thing that I admire is, okay, apparently the showrunner and the writer is the guy who did a show called Reservation Dogs, which I've not
yes.
seen, but it's also
That's another
considered
FX show.
phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
So I guess with the success of that, he was able to just say, my show stars Ethan Hawke. I'm not even gonna tell you what it is, because if you told me, I'd be like, okay, that's what it's about, or a journalist who owns a used bookstore that gets in trouble a lot, right? Like
It seems like an Elmore Leonard novel. You know what I mean?
it's very much, and it's kind of played that way. So maybe that was also part of the sale. And actually, the first season has a lot to do with Jim Thompson.
That makes
So
sense.
who I've already in interviews have said he's one of my favorite writers and
Yeah.
influences. So and because of Howard Chaykin, who turned me on to him in 1985. Anyway, it's a great show. Macon Blair is in it, who's a great actor, but also recently directed Toxic Avenger movie. And I've had some exchange with him in email. He's like, he plays a minor character, and he's like one of my favorite things right now on television. The way he performed. Do yourself a favor, watch The Lowdown, and then finally I'll end with, I think tomorrow, November 7th, which will be a few days past when you post this, will have already happened. But Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, I think, is coming out on
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah, I think it's in select theaters as well.
Right. So I'm really excited for that.
Oh, I did watch something, and I mentioned it to you in a text, if you remember.
Yes.
I watched Rosemary's Baby.
Yep. Yep. And the
And
way you felt was like, right?
yeah, it I say that and I go, I actually had feelings about the characters while I was watching it. Like I was telling you, like I hated Cassavetes in the movie. Like, and I'm like, it can't be that bad if I didn't like, somebody like. So my reaction is kind
What
of,
do you hate him as an actor? You hate the
no, I
character?
hate his character.
Yeah,
Like,
you're supposed to.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll go clearly, but like, like it's just like he was so like he was so selfish, and obviously, I mean, I'm being very, you know, blatantly obvious, I guess, but like she
right.
was so compelling, like as a character, like, and I
Just
was
turn
so,
the camera on her face and just let her react. The
yeah,
end.
yeah, and and there's a lot like Polanski's. I don't think Polanski's. He might be overrated, like from this movie, like because I think like a lot of the things that we think about Polanski in terms of filmmaking and camera angles and whatever direction he's doing, I don't think it comes from this movie, but I think a lot of people think it does. I feel
Right.
like a lot of it is kind of like the way he lingers on a couple things, or like the way he uh, the atmosphere and the background of New York in this movie, and like how certain elements of like the apartment, are shot and stuff. I think a lot of people give it a little too much credit. I mean, I could see it there, but I think it really pops up like later on, like in some of his later work.
Well, actually, would say his earlier work. Do yourself a
Those
favor.
Vampire Killers.
No, see a movie called Knife in the Water.
Okay.
It's a black and white film. It to me is what explained Polanski to me. I was
Okay.
like, oh, okay, this is why. And
Hmm.
it's very subtle in a lot of ways. It's very unique. Knife in the water, and you're like, wow, that's okay. Now I understand where. I'm trying to think if I were to look them up. Yeah, yeah. What do you call it? Rosemary's Baby is not my. Wouldn't even be on my list. I think
Of Polanski movies or movies in general?
of Polanski movies.
Hmm.
It's fine. It's good. I understood why it did. He's still alive at 92.
Yeah. He ain't allowed in this
Wow.
country.
Wow. Yeah, that's right.
But
Hold on.
like Fearless Vampire Killers, I think is so stylish and so like um not wacky. I don't think wacky is the word I would use, but it's so like novel is a good
Right.
word.
Well, he
Like,
did. All right. So his first film is Knife in the Water, which
yeah,
is right out the gate. He's like, oh, this guy's fully formed. He has ideas.
like a P.T. Anderson.
Repulsion, Cul-de-sac, Repulsion, the Fearless Vampire Killers, Rosemary's Baby, Macbeth, what Chinatown. Come on. Now that's
That's the one, like
awesome.
that's the one where you
That's the
really
one.
get it, like where I think,
I think my godmother was in his film called The Tenant,
hmm,
Shelley Winters.
yeah,
He did Tess, which I don't remember seeing. I remember hearing a lot about.
I do too. I never saw.
Pirates, Frantic Bitter Moon, Death in the Maiden. Oh, he did Death in the Maiden. Amazing movie with Sigourney Weaver and Ben Kingsley. See that movie. It's
He
incredible.
did a movie called, I want to say, was it The Devil's Gate or something, or The
He
Devil's
did The
something?
Ninth Gate
Knife Gate.
with
That movie
Johnny
was
Depp.
just absolute dog shit.
Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't see that one. I didn't see The Pianist, which I think was considered a really good movie.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider, Carnage, Venus and Fur, based on a true story. Okay, sorry, I'm just running quickly
No,
through
no,
the
no.
list. But
Knife in the Water, huh?
Knife in the Water is his
Do
first man.
you
I
think
still
there's
love it.
a direct correlation between Knife in the Water and, say, Chinatown? Since, like,
I don't know because I'm not like a connoisseur of Polanski.
okay,
But what's been fun? We may have talked about this, but I've been going through as much as I can Alfred Hitchcock movies,
oh yeah,
and it's
yeah,
interesting to see. So in a weird way, like when I saw Psycho, I was like, not that I was like, but you think Psycho, right? And like
mhm,
it's so famous, or like Rosemary's Baby, or and yet, and you see why for the cultural moment why it was so incredible, and
sure,
and it is a well-made movie, but sometimes it's the other ones that don't get talked about
yeah.
that you're like, oh, that's where they found themselves,
It's like when we were talking about Woody Allen after Diane Keaton passed away a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about interiors and husbands and wives. I
Husbands,
think
wives, yeah,
like we were talking about these kind of like Stardust Memories is obviously a big one, but like the off
right,
ones are the ones that you kind of miss out, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize like that he had that in him or something.
sure.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I want to check out Knife in the Water now.
So Knife in the Water, just like, did you tell me you saw Rope recently?
Yes, I
All
watched it.
right,
I
so
watched it.
like again, there's a lot of subtlety to Knife in the Water, and I don't remember. I remember seeing it. And I think I have it on a Criterion Collection version on Blu-ray or something.
Mhm.
And I just was like, let me like first of all, what the hell's up with that title? Uh, you'll see.
Mhm.
It's just it was very unique. Um, and I don't know. See the movie. We'll talk about it. And actually, I should probably rewatch it. So let me know if you do watch it at some point. And I'll probably rewatch it because I'd like to revisit that movie.
Let me tell you what I have on my DVR currently. You'll enjoy this.
Yeah.
Because I just recorded something, I think, this morning, and I use YouTube TV. It's nice and cheap, but you get Turner Classic Movies, so I got no.
Cool.
Um, where is it? That's not there it is. I have the Manchurian Candidate waiting for me.
Oh, you've never seen it?
I've seen it, but
Okay.
like I haven't seen it in a while. Same
All
with
right, real quick before you move, have you seen a movie called Seconds?
no.
Put that in right now. It's
Okay.
the same. It's Frankenheimer. It stars Rock Hudson, and I would want you to watch the opening scene alone. You can go online and you'd be like, "What is going on?" Basically, a guy. This is the premise. Who wants to change his identity for I forget why. It's just like this homely guy, whatever, goes to do this experiment where he gets a second chance.
Mhm.
He gets operated on, and when he wakes up and the bandages come off, he's fucking Rock Hudson.
Okay.
But it gets really weird, man. It's an insane film. It's called Seconds. It's
So on my
Frankenheimer.
DVR, I currently have The Manchurian Candidate, The Sting.
Nice.
There's a couple of Robert Redford ones that I was like, oh, I gotta, like I
Yep.
like one I haven't seen in years. Bringing Up Baby with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, which I love.
I don't know if I've seen that. I may have seen. I
It's
should have seen that.
absolutely bonkers, that movie. It's
Right.
fantastic.
Right.
In Cold Blood, which Truman
What?
Capote,
Robert Blake.
yes. Um, Cat People, the original from like
Never
1942.
saw it.
I've seen it, but I've never seen the sequel, which is also on my list, The Curse of the Cat People. Like I
Oh,
didn't know
really?
that they made a sequel, so I'm like I really love Cat People. So Curse of the Cat
Right.
People, I definitely want to check out. Fearless Vampire Killers is on here as well. Just found it on there. These are all on Turner Classic Movies, and I just record them just because like I'm
Awesome.
A Bridge Too Far with Sean Connery and Robert Redford.
Oh my God.
The
Wait.
Day,
Robert Redford.
yeah, he plays a minor part, I believe.
Oh, Bridge Two. Wait. Who directed that?
That would be Richard Attenborough.
Attenborough. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Ryan O'Neal, Laurence Olivier, Robert Redford. Yeah, there's a fantastic
Right.
cast.
Right.
The Day of the Jackal, because I haven't seen that in years. I don't. I think I get this one confused with Day of the Condor, and I know I've seen Day of the Condor, so I'm
You
like,
mean
let
Three
me.
Days of the Condor?
3 Days of the Condor. Thank you.
Right.
I just said Day of the Jackal. That's why I said that. But
Right.
All the President's Men, I don't think I've seen because I keep confusing.
What?
Yeah, so that's on my list.
Do yourself a favor if you want. This is an interesting double feature. All the President's Men, which is Dustin Hoffman and
Woodward and
Redford.
Bernstein. Yeah,
Right. And that's about
Watergate.
Nixon,
Yeah.
Watergate.
Mhm.
Interesting parallel in terms of pacing and story making. Uh, See the movie Zodiac with
Time out. Time out. I
uh
just watched it again,
oh,
like last
Jake
night.
Gyllenhaal
Yeah,
and Mark Ruffalo.
yeah. Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
Yeah,
And there's a
it's brilliant.
similar weird like investigative thing, happening. And that was David Fincher, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I think I've seen all the President's Men, but I know that I'm conflating a couple of scenes in my
Sure.
mind with 3 Days of the Condor. I've
Right.
never seen Barefoot in the Park, which is Robert Redford and Barbara, not Barbara Streisand, Jane Fonda.
I don't think I've seen that either, and I want to. I want to.
I have these all on my list to watch like over the next
Oh,
month.
that's cool. That's
But yeah,
cool.
I literally watched Zodiac like last night.
Oh, that's so funny, man. I've only seen it once. So check out what I picked up. Marvel and Penguin have gotten together and they're putting out, they're called Penguin Classics Marvel Collection. And I
Mhm.
got a couple of these things, but I recently got this Black Panther
Oh, look
one.
at that. Yeah.
So, and it's a normal size. It's like it's a little bit wider than a normal kind of trade
Yeah,
collection.
I was gonna say it doesn't look. I thought it was a
So
hardcover,
it's
right?
not it's a soft cover. It's got a lot of essays in the front, which is like Jesus Christ already. Then it has the an original like two first issues of Jack Kirby Stanley
Fantastic Four.
introduction to, we've seen that a bunch of times. But then, and I didn't realize Claw was introduced in that
Mhm.
story. He didn't look like the Claw that we know
Yeah,
now. But and anyway, then it goes into this jungle action series that Don McGregor wrote that has such amazing artwork. Well, Rich started with Rich Buckler, and then I think Gil Kane drew an issue, and then Billy Graham. But it
Billy
messes with
Graham. Wow,
like suddenly you
we were
turn the
talking
page,
about
you
him
have
a
to go
couple of
like
weeks ago.
this,
Yeah,
right? You have to turn it this way, okay? And then there's a lot of like fun kind of layouts and stuff that they do. Like, look at this. Suddenly it's like Steranko, like it
yeah.
becomes like Steranko style, like design with lettering and artwork. And like, I don't know, there's a lot of fun that's, Klaus Jansen's doing a lot of the inking at one point. I mean, look at these crazy ass characters. Like, what is
Like,
going on here?
that's not a
Black
Black Panther
Panther.
comic. That's crazy.
Except and then look at this, like with the lettering and the
The
layout,
Eisner layout.
and they're just like it's almost like they were drawing like nobody was watching and reading it.
I was
You
just about to
know,
say the same thing. Like they were drawing for themselves, not for
they're
anybody
doing
else.
this for themselves. Killmonger, like these fun like sequences here, and then I came upon and like double page splashes with all kinds of stuff. It's so inspiring to look at. Like when I'm sitting here going, "What am I going to draw? How do I draw my comic?" I was
Yeah,
just picking this up recently as an influence, and then I came upon this splash page again, more lettering
looking
in the
sad.
on the side of hill of a mountain, and then like we go into these cool little layouts, and then suddenly we're like, look at these silhouettes. Like, look how beautiful
So
and bold
good.
that is, right?
Yeah,
And it's like $28, and you
that's
get
not
like,
bad.
it's incredible, man. Like, and so much fun, man. Like, I don't know, and of course the stories must be insane. Holy mackerel! Look at this. It's like Batman, like
Uh,
Black Batman, right? Oh my God, it's so cool, man.
who did the
So
essays in that? Ta-Nehisi Coates?
I think so.
I was gonna say, gotta be right.
I mean, so we got a bunch. We got oh no, we didn't do it. Okay, so we have an introduction by Ben Saunders,
Okay,
a forward by I'm gonna get this name wrong, Nnedi Okorafor,
okay.
and an introduction by Kiana J. Whitted. So
I would have
yeah, I
thought,
guess it's just putting it in context and trying to explain. I'm sure there's some questionable, problematic story
sure,
stuff in here,
sure.
but
Manape, Manape is probably the biggest one because we now know him as M'Baku in the movies.
oh right, right.
Manape, is kind of problematic, I think.
So can we do Manape? Can we take Manape?
Like, can we take him back? I mean, you'd have to ask Don McGregor, probably.
No, what I'm saying is if they're no longer calling him that, I wonder if they if the copyright has expired at Marvel.
I doubt that. I mean, that book being published is probably the reason why it's not.
That's right. That's true. All right, so
That looks fantastic, though. What
it's so
value
good,
too?
man. Just
28
get it.
bucks.
Like it's and then actually I think there's another one of Daredevil Born Again, Frank Miller, David
Yeah, yeah.
Mazzucchelli. But it also comes with like scripts, his layouts. Like it's also a teaching tool in a
Yeah.
way. So these are cool little additions. And I'll look up the other one. And do they have anything in the back? Like, do they say what the other ones are? Hold on. Just want to see. Probably not.
I
There's like
picked
lots of notes. Oh wait, they have the Amazing Spider-Man, Lee and Ditko, Captain America with Kirby, Simon, Lee, Steranko, and Ramita Jr.
That's a pretty far
and
one.
and Black Panther. And those are the three thus far that I know of. So,
Hmm.
all right, cool.
Put that on your Christmas list, kids, as well.
I can't wait to read it. All right, so we're going back to our verses where we take two creators and
Oh, we got let's say, what do we got? Like about 20
yeah,
minutes or so?
we can do a few, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Unless you want to wrap it up now, or do you want to do a verses? A
I
couple
want to
verses.
do
All
like
right.
I feel like we owe it to ourselves.
All right, our little
Oh, and
dessert
before we
here.
go further, thank you everybody who joined us on our, initial live
Oh
episode.
yeah.
Like we didn't plan it like until like that day, so it was hard to, really expect a lot of people to show up, but it was a lot of fun.
Do you think we'll do it again once a month?
Yeah, I'd like to.
And we can advertise it early and get, rally some more
Yeah,
troops,
yeah.
right?
It was good. It was a good time.
Okay, so we do this versus thing where uh we pit creators against each other. We talk about their careers, their influences, how they might have impacted us in some way, and then we have to pick one over the other, even though it's not fair. And sometimes it's been impossible. And it doesn't mean that we like one less or they deserve to be thrown in the garbage, kind of a
There have
thing.
been
So
two, I want to say ties, or exceptions, and it was Marcos Martin and Javier Polito
right,
and Mark Wade versus Kurt Busiek. There's only been two. We've been
right,
doing
right.
this for many weeks now, and
It's
I
insane
would
how
say it's
much we've gotten
impressive.
out of this couple pieces of
Like
paper.
5 pieces of paper. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Hey,
This is a curveball. John Wagner and Alan Grant versus John Ostrander and Kim Yale. So I basically, when the ands, I was like, these are writers that are known to write together.
yeah, Wagner and Grant, I think probably best known for their work on 2000 AD. Um,
And then later on, Grant went on to write Batman, or both of
I,
them,
I
or
believe Grant was the only one that did Batman, but Wagner, I think, did something at DC as well. I think that's where they diverged.
sure.
But
And
yeah,
then John Ostrander, famous for Suicide Squad,
mhm.
with Kim Yale
Yeah,
as well contributing to the stories. And Alan Grant. Now, who's how do I say this? Who is a writer who's written Batman that's gone a little right or a little extreme right? Was that Alan Grant?
that would be Chuck Dixon, my friend.
Chuck Dixon. I don't think he's on my list here.
Thank God. I don't want to talk about him. Like
Okay.
that entire one of the curses of the internet is being able to contact people
Oh,
that you wouldn't want to, like, that you wouldn't have access to, or
right.
something. And I, not that I've contacted Chuck, or I mean, he did at one point friend me on Facebook and I accepted it, and
Hmm.
all he was doing was trying to sell one of his books. Like he was just sending me constant. It's almost like when people like advertise their Kickstarters and they just keep sending you the Kickstarter link, like personally, not just like posting it on their
Uh-huh.
wall. No, no,
Right.
like here, hey, I noticed you haven't, backed my Kickstarter. Here's the link,
Oh,
like that
okay.
kind of thing. Like that's, I think that's
Right.
bush,
Right.
but like, and that's what Dixon was doing. So I unfriended him, a long time ago, and it was right
Right.
around. It was right before he came out as being a Comicsgate guy, and
Right.
like you started seeing all of his right wing, like almost like hyper, and I wouldn't call him Christian, but like Christian nationalist is what I
Hmm.
would say he is.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's put him in context for the listeners.
Chuck Dixon.
Yeah.
Chuck Dixon, famous for writing The Punisher at Marvel. Then his run at DC, on various Batman. I'm not entirely. I don't think he wrote Batman proper, but
Did he write Robin Year One?
wrote Robin Year One.
That was a great series.
He wrote Robin. He wrote Nightwing. He wrote Batgirl Year One. He wrote a lot of Batman adjacent titles. I think he might have done
Right.
Asriel as well, like when it was a
And
series.
he hails from England?
Chuck Dixon? No, he's
Yeah.
from Pennsylvania, I believe. Like
Oh, okay. For
he's
some
from the
reason
other side of the state.
oh.
But like just kind of like, and I will, everyone knows Stray is influenced by Nightwing, and it is influenced by a lot of what Chuck Dixon wrote, because I was a big fan of that. And Scott McDaniel's a good friend of mine as well, who's the artist of those issues. And it just, I wouldn't say it pains me, but the idea of never meeting your heroes is very true when it comes to Chuck Dixon. And
Hmm.
I've never met him, like I can't say that, but the I apologize for getting off of the verses with this, but um, the interactions that I had with him were kind of tasteless to begin with. That
Mm,
I kind of got out before I got like my well water got tainted. You know what I mean?
Do
Like
you
it,
feel like this is the case of, oh God, like you enjoyed the work? Do you still enjoy the work, or you know how some people feel like, oh, I can never read that person's stuff again because of who they are
I can't
now?
listen to Michael Jackson's music because he might have molested children or that kind of thing.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Do you feel like that way with Chuck Dixon?
um, well, I brought up this theory that I had heard that I noticed that I was not subscribing to per se, but I just noticed that I was like, oh, that is how I kind of look at this work, where I think it might have been Chappelle, it might have been another comedian, but like, it was, it was neither. It was the Jesus and Mero TV show on Viceland. And they were talking about Kanye when he said slavery was a choice. And he goes, Jesus goes, I can show you the exact moment where every black person stopped messing with Kanye. And it was when he said slavery was a choice. And it was like,
Right.
yeah, and like it's like, yeah, you can like that moment, you're never going to listen to anything further from that.
hmm
So
hmm
everything beyond before that is not untainted. Like there's still
Right.
that stink of it on it, but
Right. Right.
your enjoyment was pure when you enjoyed it.
Right.
So that like the stuff that you read before you found out about this person's political views is untainted because it was pure then. And like you just don't acknowledge anything post that. Neil
Well,
Gaiman is a good indication of that as well.
let me ask you this though.
Oh, but
This
let me
is,
answer your question.
yeah, yeah.
I,
Sorry.
I have collected all of the Nightwing issues. I have like all the trades of Dixon's
hmm
run. I cannot bring myself to read them yet. I don't
Wow.
I don't know why. I just cannot.
All right, I'm going to help you with that right now with this question, because again, I didn't anticipate talking about this in this
Hmm.
way, and I'm trying to think of my own examples of maybe people who, when you find out, they suck, but do you like the work, and how much of them sucking informs that work originally or not,
Right.
right? Like, people evolve over the years, and they arrive at where they go, and maybe they had certain intentions in their work, and then it veered, right?
Hmm.
So would you say, is it Howard Chaykin? Howard Chaykin's the other guy we always mention every episode, plus Jack
Yeah,
Kirby.
Kirby.
Uh, is it Howard Chaykin that basically believes that superheroes are fascists?
Yes. We had
Okay,
this conversation on Facebook, I think, and I think you were involved in it.
okay. So
Howard brought that like
so with that in mind, would you say what I understand? Do you feel like Chuck Dixon leans toward fascism?
um it's a slippery slope. I mean, I can't say that for sure because I don't read or listen to his if he has a podcast or if
Sure,
he's got
sure.
like a YouTube
A
channel or
forum of sorts, right?
I don't know what he's speaking about these days, so I can't say for sure. I know that, like I said, Christian nationalism is only steps away from fascism in a lot of ways. So, and I'm speaking as a Christian myself,
Right.
that like I can recognize that in someone else. So I can't say that he is a fascist or that he has fascist leanings, but I can say that it's like just based on Christian nationalism, he's not that far.
So now let me push over to comics. I know how you feel with like the way you write superheroes and maybe the way I write superheroes, but I can see an argument where, well, what the hell makes a superhero? Just like what the hell makes a cop or somebody who wants to run for mayor, like someone who wants to have a sense of authority, hopefully listens to the people when you're a community leader of sorts.
Mhm.
But when you're a Batman who dresses up as a billionaire, like, is there some credence to being some semi-fascist, somewhat fascist? And I think there's a different argument for an alien like Superman versus a billionaire like a Bruce Wayne who had a really bad day with his parents,
Mhm.
um, and again, there's many complicated ways to navigate that, right? So, do you think that like whatever leanings a Chuck Dixon might have been having throughout his career and evolving to where he's gone. Do you think that maybe served going back to the comics you cannot reread right now?
Mhm.
Maybe it'd be interesting to reread them with that lens
That in
or
mind.
that in mind, and maybe that's an interesting take.
Yeah.
But it clearly was because you liked them at the
Yeah, I
time.
think, the thing about had he again, like I'm pretty sure he didn't write the Batman books proper, like Detective or Batman.
Sure.
I think Greg Rucka was on there at the time.
Yeah.
Denny was doing one of them as well, or he was editing and maybe doing like some fill-in issues, or whatever. But I think Chuck was doing all the ancillary uh characters. And the thing about that is if he were to be writing Batman, who has this reputation amongst fans of being pseudo fascist, um, maybe it'd be easier to tell. But because it's like a sidekick character that grows up and has a different point of view on life, even
Right.
like I think you can read those, at least from my memory, you can read those and not see that, not see, not see that.
Hello.
That's what I'm trying to say. Um, but the other writer who I truly, truly, truly enjoyed and admired and met and had great conversations with him was Gerard Jones. Gerard Jones, famous for writing. God, he wrote a lot of stuff. I can't even say he was famous for writing anything. But the thing that I, was into was The Trouble with Girls.
Right,
Was
that Tim Hamilton drew, that my former studio
yeah,
mate.
yeah, I loved that, and I used to tell Tim all the time, and he's just like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love that book." It was so fun. It was just so like lighthearted, and it's
Right.
kind of sexy for like a 12-year-old, 11-year-old, to like like kind of coming into like your own sexuality, and like you're
Yep.
seeing that, and you're just like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," or whatever. You feel like you're looking at something you're not supposed to be, that kind
Right,
of.
right, right.
And then like he wrote this book about the history of comics and like how it involved gangster like a novel, like, and it was
Right,
historical, and it was right
right,
after, like, we had him at Hanley's for a signing, and like I got to
right,
shake his hand, I got to like
right.
pick his brain and stuff, and then right after that he was found to be in possession of certain elements of pornography that.
Yeah, he's a pedophile,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. And
So
then it just destroys everything. Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
And I haven't reread his book. I haven't gone back to look at any of his other work, to kind of, and not because that ruined, like I enjoyed talking to him when I talked to him. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's the sad part,
Yeah.
like that if had I known he had that stuff, on his hard drive or he had those predilections. I never talked to him,
Right.
but I did talk to him,
Right.
enjoyable conversation with him.
Yeah.
It's hard to take that enjoyment away um, from me, but
Right.
I can't bring myself to, like
No,
indulge.
I get, and that's a harder one to come back from because of
Right.
you know, but what you're also describing is, um, you know, you can do something you can do something really terrible in one day, right?
Mhm.
And in this case, it was more than one day, right?
Yeah.
Probably. But let's just say you did something bad in one day, and then you're just known for the one thing you did that one day, and you've
Mhm.
lived thousands of days, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you're much more complex than the one thing you did. It doesn't define you, but that's what we do. We define people by either a really great day or a really bad day.
Or both.
Nothing, or both,
Yeah.
and so you can still honor that you had a good conversation with a guy who you admired, and then you found out this other thing, and like that's what makes us mature adults, I
Right.
guess, to be able
And
to navigate the two,
and,
So
and that's the not the hard part of life, but like the the intricacies and the idiosyncratic nature of life is that like tomorrow could come and like one of us could be dead, or or one of us could be maimed, or and like still be able to like do this silly talk show that we do, but
right,
be
right,
altered for the permanent end.
yep.
um I think, going back to Chuck Dixon, we're probably going to end it on this because at this point, like,
I know.
we've we've
Who knew?
Alan Grant and John Wagner is my pick. So I'll
I'm gonna
answer.
go with oh gee, I don't know. I don't have a horse in this race.
I mean,
So
Ostrander and
and Yale.
Yale were fantastic, but I think there's something about the things that Alan Grant and John Wagner did together that just,
Did they write the Norm Brayfogle
Alan
Batman?
Grant did. John
You
Wagner,
know what? I'm gonna go with Alan Grant and John Wagner.
yeah, I think, but the thing, like, if I were just to say John Ostrander and Kim Yale, I'm only looking at Suicide Squad. I'm not really looking at
Right,
anything
right.
else.
True, true.
Whereas I can, look around, as like I can judge Ostrander as a separate being, but
Right,
like the
right.
2000 AD stuff is just brilliant.
Yes.
But going back to Chuck Dixon, now that we've
Yep.
gotten the answer for our verses,
Right.
the the thing about why I can't or why I haven't, not that I can't, I could just reach down into my short box right here with
Yep.
this collection and just go into it. It's just that how much time am I wasting to try to find the joy within me again
Sure.
when I can
Sure.
just read Wolfman and Perez and just be happy? You know,
I mean, the bigger existential question is, do you ever need to read it again and you just have your memory of it and then you let it go?
that's
And that's what
that's
happens as we get older, right? Although there is an interesting, not test or experiment, but an interesting experience. I almost wish you could pull out an issue of a Chuck Dixon written Nightwing and read it and let me know how you feel. I think that'd
no,
be
I
an
mean,
interesting.
I think just knowing myself, I think I could read it and just be like divorced or not divorced, but disconnected from those thoughts and just because again, it's just a comic, like
Yeah,
it's just
yeah, yeah.
or it's just a trade paperback,
That was editorially, overseen. You know what I'm
and like
saying?
it's still got fantastic artwork. It's still
Right, right,
well crafted. It's still it still
right.
stands as a hell
But
of
then
a
let me ask you
run.
this, because we veered from Wagner, Grant, Ostrander, and Yale to Chuck Dixon because of my stupidity. If you had to do a verses with Chuck Dixon, who's Chuck Dixon's verses?
That's a good question. I would imagine it would be somebody like I think he would like to think that he's a contemporary of a Greg Rucka or a Ned
Okay,
Baker. I think he would like to think that, but he's not. I
okay.
think he's more along the lines of a Chris Claremont. Scott
Hmm.
Lobdell, probably the better
I'm going to
connection.
put that down. That's the one I'm going to put down.
I would
And
think
just to give context to Scott Lobdell,
Scott Lobdell, fantastic, writer. Also, a little bit of controversy with him as well. I can't remember what his deal was. But there was a moment in time when the Me Too movement started that Scott Lobdell's name got thrown out there. I would have to do a little research and see what it is, but like I'm not like just that's besides judging his work. So his work, he worked famously on the X-Men during a time post Jim Lee, Chris Claremont, and a lot of the Image guys leaving Marvel. And he was, I would say, handpicked by Bob Harris, who was the group editor at the time, to take over. And he wrote some amazing X-Men stories. And another guy who I've met a couple of times and enjoyed my time talking with him and stuff. And like, fairly fascinating guy, like to be plucked from obscurity and just hit it out of the park. Like, because the thing about Scott doing his Uncanny X-Men run was that it's the flagship book. Like at that time in the 90s, early 2000s, like Marvel's, printing Amazing Spider-Man, but it's not Ultimate Spider-Man.
mm-hmm,
There's no like, JMS coming in, Straczynski
mm-hmm,
coming in with John Romita Jr. and reviving Amazing Spider-Man. There's no Mark Waid on and Mike Wieringo on Fantastic Four.
mm-hmm.
Fantastic Four is going through a really weird transitional period where no one can figure out what to do with these characters. Daredevil is probably 4 years away from Brian Bendis coming on, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
Dan Chichester and a couple other guys. I think Joe Kelly might have been doing Daredevil at that point. So like you have Scott Lobdell, who again thrust into the spotlight and knocking it out of the park. Now you could say, all right, is it Scott's writing or is it the X-Men that's selling the books? But I don't think it matters at that point. You
Hmm.
just lost Jim Lee. Chris Claremont has effectively gone to DC to write Sovereign Seven. It's not the same landscape, but he's still keeping the numbers up. So you got
Yeah.
to say it's got to be talent, you know. Uh, Dixon, I don't think has ever been put in that kind of position.
Hmm.
Dixon has always had a really good reputation for writing action. A lot of the things that Chuck Dixon, I don't want to say taught, but a lot of the example of how Chuck Dixon started every comic with a splash page and then ended with a splash page, to
Mm.
get your attention, like in terms of scripting and stuff, because he did, I believe, full script. Um, a lot of that stuff is stuff that I carried over into my own work.
Hmm.
So it's like I took a lot from those Nightwing, like stuff, and like from Wizard magazine interviews with him and stuff like that. Like I
Right.
truly, like Chuck Dixon, Mark Waid, Kurt Busiek, James Robinson. That's part of my writer DNA. Um,
Right.
uh, uh, Roy Thomas as well, Jerry Ordway on Shazam. Like all those different elements make me who I am. Um,
Hmm.
I might not. I might not care for Chuck Dixon as a person, but his contributions to my artwork and my expression of my artwork are unparalleled. Like absolutely, like with those other five writers, like I
That's
can't,
fair, man.
you
That's
know,
fair. Absolutely. All right. Well, I had no idea we go into this, and I learned a lot.
yeah. And
We
again,
got one versus this time,
well, two
which yielded
technically,
us two technically. Yeah.
yeah. Like I said,
That's
like with Scott and Chuck, if that's the verses that we're going to end on, I would say Chuck. Like
right.
I'll take. But I will not take any work that's not Nightwing. Like any of his Comicsgate self-published, nonsense where uh, white guys are just, basically beating on people of color. I don't care for.
No,
Like
of course not.
anything.
But you're making me curious, and maybe I have read. Did he write? Did Chuck Dixon write the Punisher graphic novel that Jorge Savino drew?
It's possible.
Um,
Um,
um, I don't remember reading it. I remember looking at it and thinking, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable." And we've already discussed like a panel where he's breaking someone's neck, but it's on his face, and you
mhm.
see the breaking happening in his expression. Like it's insane the way he drew this guy,
Yeah, Jorge
unbelievable.
Zafino. Yeah,
And his son draws comics now because Jorge passed
yeah.
away. Did Chuck Dixon write that one? Do you know?
I'm looking.
Was it like war journal type stuff?
Yeah,
So
I'm
I'm kind
looking
of
at my
curious to read that mindset
Punisher War
because
Journal, Punisher Kingdom Gone. He wrote the Nom after Larry Hama. Um,
oh right, wow.
he did a little bit of Moon Knight, a lot of Conan stuff. Like
Oh,
he
I
did
think
a
he
lot more
did. I think.
DC
Oh
for
wait, hold on
Marvel.
a second. Where's Vino writer? Sorry. No, no, no. Punisher. What was it called? The Punisher Assassins Guild. Oh, Joe Duffy.
We just talked about Joe Duffy a couple of weeks
I
ago.
think Joe Duffy wrote it. God damn, she is awesome. Mary
Yeah.
Jo Duffy. Good on her. All right, that's awesome. All right, so I guess he didn't write that issue that I think. Oh wait, Kingdom. Chuck Dixon. He did do Kingdom Gone
Yes.
with Jorge Savina. Okay, so all right. Well, he did work with that master artist. Um. All right. Well, I'm trying to think of how to wrap this up.
Um, the best way to wrap it up probably is we'll be back next week with
Ah,
an
yes.
episode. We probably won't talk about Chuck Dixon on this show again, unless it comes up. I can't say again. Like you, the best advice I could give anybody is, like you don't have to explain or justify your enjoyment of anything to
Yeah.
anybody,
Yeah.
especially if it's something that brings you joy, as long as it's not bringing someone else any kind of like heartbreak or distress or something, if it's not taking anybody's heart away from them, like, oh, Chuck Dixon, what are you doing at the Ripperverse? Alpha Core, The Horseman, Zaylan, What Kills Must Die, The Great War of Separation.
I mean, you're making me. It almost sounds like when I watch like exploitation films or like these shoddy things that are just
That's a,
extreme.
I mean, that's
It
kind of
almost feels like some grindhouse type shit, like
yeah, but I mean, like it's just all for shock value and to say, like people of color, Muslims, like
well, that's horseshit, right? That's bullshit. Like,
right,
but
and
if there was a
he's
nuance, if there was some kind of a
but,
insight or
but
some
there
kind of
isn't.
like, oh, this is why I hate people because of this or whatever,
He's
maybe there's a
just
value.
he's just an old guy that's just mad that the world has passed him by. Like
Yeah,
that's really what it comes down to. And
yeah,
like his anger can only be expressed in the language that he knows best, and that's in four colors and nine panels. And
right,
unfortunately, we share an industry.
right.
Like I share an industry with people that I don't want to share an industry with, like an Ethan Van Sciver or a Mike Miller or a what's his name? Who cares? Like those guys, honestly, who cares? I don't care about them. I don't think about them until they come up. Like I
Right,
don't.
right, right.
There's a really funny moment last year at Baltimore Comic Con. I noticed that there were two artists that are very Comicsgate, and I texted Jamal Igle, and I go, "These guys are like, why are these guys here? They're not supposed to be here. Like, should we tell Mark? Because Wade is very vocal about Comicsgate people
Right,
coming around."
right.
And Jamal goes, leave Mark alone. He's got more important things to worry about. And that's how I feel. Like once
Basically, yeah, yeah, yeah. Basically,
more
at the
or
end of the
so,
day,
like the beauty of comics is also one of the ugliest things, and is that it lends itself to expression by all kinds of voices. And unfortunately, I'm not a person to police that. Like I do.
and you shouldn't. Vito, it's not our job to police.
No, no,
You vote with your wallet, right?
right.
And I'm never going to go online unless they personally attacked me and I'm in a scuffle or whatever, and I want to suddenly involve strangers on the internet or whoever. But like, no, man, there's so many other channels to turn to,
And
and,
again,
and,
like
and intriguing channels that provoke and make you think, or you don't totally agree, but you gotta, there's someone who's able to articulate their point of view. That I will always uh uh be open-minded to someone who can articulate the opposing point of view.
sure.
Do you know what I mean?
And again, I go back to the idea that like I have no right to take away from somebody's enjoyment of something. Like it might be gross and it might be just degrading for a discerning mind, like I would never read it. Like
Hmm.
I would never go out of my way to find it and to read it. But
Right,
someone's enjoying it. I can't say that they're wrong. You know,
right,
your joy is where the world's hard enough. You find your joy where you can get it.
exactly.
If your joy is in looking at, superheroes beating up black guys in alleys, you're an asshole, but go for it. I think that's the best way to end it.
Yay, yay.
Yay, yay. We'll see you next week. I love you, Dean. I love you, everyone.
Love you guys. Thanks,
Chuck,
Vito.
not you, Chuck Dixon. Good night.